Hello, you're listening to Grady Hooker on Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0. So we're going to crack straight on to this day in history with wrestling again. So again, there's been two WrestleManias that happened this year. This date back in the 90s and 2000s. In 1992, WrestleMania 8 emanated from the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. There were three great matches that night. Roddy Piper took on Bret Hart for the Intercontinental Championship. This match came about because 2 days before the Rumble, Bret Hart got sick and had to lose his title to the Mountie. And then the Mountie would boast about beating Hart and challenged anyone for the title. Piper stepped up and defeated him at the Rumble. But Piper respected Hart so much he gave him a title shot at Mania. Bret Hart became the first man to pin Rowdy Roddy Piper in 17 years by countering the sleeper hold into a pinning combination by using the turnbuckle. The WWF Championship was also on the line when Ric Flair took on Randy Savage. This match was never supposed to happen. It was supposed to be the legendary meeting of Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. However, due to the events of the Rumble, the match was changed. Savage defeated Flair to become the WWE Champion, ending Flair's rather disappointing first WWF Championship run. The main event was Sid Justice versus Hulk Hogan. These two were pretty good friends until Sid Justice eliminated Hogan in the Rumble match, and Hogan was upset by the elimination and helped Ric Flair eliminate Justice. Hogan won this match due to a DQ when Sid Justice's manager Harvey Whippleman interfered in the match. The second WrestleMania that happened on this date, back in 2009, was WrestleMania 25. It was a really packed WrestleMania and emanated from Houston, Texas. We started off with the Money in the Bank ladder match. CM Punk, Kane, Mark Henry, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, Kofi Kingston, Christian and Finlay were all in this match. The match was littered with many notable moments, including a series of match combatants performing dives onto the floor of the arena onto each other, as well as Benjamin diving off the top of a ladder onto his opponents. The ladder was also used as a weapon by the competitors, which saw it being thrown at each other or to add impact to moves. CM Punk came out of the match winning his second Money in the Bank match in a row. The Triple H took on Randy Orton for Triple H's WWE Championship. This was the big feud between Triple H and Orton after Orton won the Rumble and proceeded to torment the McMahons. The match had a stipulation that if Triple H got DQ'd, he'd lose the title. After the referee was knocked down, Orton got Triple H's sledgehammer, but Triple H reversed it and hit Orton with the sledgehammer, followed by a pedigree to retain the title. Also, in the 17th attempt on the streak, two legends put it all on the line to defeat each other. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. This match was one of the greatest matches of all time. Undertaker and Shawn hit each other with everything they had and the kitchen sink. The Undertaker was a 7-foot, 300-pound man, and he dove out of the ring like a luchador at Shawn, who sidestepped it at the last second, sacrificing a cameraman to take the impact. After 30 grueling, exciting minutes, the end came when Shawn attempted a moonsault, only to be caught and planted for his third tombstone, which resulted in the 1-2-3 victory and 17-0 for The Undertaker. A couple of other notable things is the Colognes unified the WWE Tag Team Championships. In the dark match, they defeated Miz and Morrison. And John Cena also had a great feat of strength when he lifted up both the Big Show and Edge onto his shoulders at the same time. Okay, so now we're going to play the classic entrance theme of the week, and that's Hulk Hogan's Real American, and I assure you it is actually Real American this time. Welcome back to Wrestling Roundup. I'm Grady Hooker on FreeFM 89.0. So we're going to crack on with Monday Night Raw's recap, okay? So we started off with CM Punk and Heyman. Punk continues to disrespect Taker and the Urn. Punk shares the opinion of me, and Taker should have stopped at 20-0. Punk drops the Urn again to get into Taker's head. I think he's really gonna get into his head and mess with him. But the lights go out and Taker's in the ring and he starts to beat Punk down. Heyman grabs the urn and scrambles off before Taker can get it, so CM Punk still has the urn. Up next, Fandango is meant to be having a match, but Jericho interrupts him in the middle of his name and attacks him, so we don't get to see Fandango debut. Shame. Up next, this match has supposedly been moved earlier. Chris Jericho is going to take on Dolph Ziggler. It's a great back and forth action till Big E interferes. Jericho fights back, takes out Big E, and finally Jericho locks in the walls of Jericho and Ziggler has to tap. After the match, Big E Langston attacks Jericho and lays him out with a big ending. Fandango comes back out to the ring to rub it in Jericho's face and beat him down a bit more. At the back, Matt Striker interviews Sheamus. The Shield attacks Sheamus in the middle of his interview and Orton tries to save him but gets taken out. It isn't until the Big Show joins them that it levels the fight. Looking like a great match there. Mark Henry's out next and he's got a handicap match. He's taken on both of the Uso brothers. The Usos have a little offense, but Henry ultimately defeats the numbers and World's Strongest slams one of the Usos for the win. After the match, he slams both of the Usos at the same time. Okay, the next match coming up is Antonio Cesaro taking on Alberto Del Rio. Ricardo's on crutches, but still manages the intro. Both men bring their best until Zeb distracts Alberto and Cesaro takes advantage. Swagger out of nowhere attacks Ricardo in his ankle. Del Rio comes out with the save, except he gets counted out while he's chasing Jack Swagger all the way through the crowd. After the match, Alberto takes his anger out on Cesaro with a cross arm breaker. Up next, our WWE Tag Team Champions are in action against the Primetime Players. Ziggler, Big E, and AJ watch on from the stage as Kane and Bryan take it to the Primetime Players. Primetime Players try to fight back, but in the end, Darren Young eats a choke slam and Kane gets the 1-2-3. Triple H comes out to the ring and he talks about how strong Lesnar is, but he's going to bring everything. Barrett interferes for his match, and he tells Triple H to step aside. Instead, Triple H decides to kick him in the nuts. Barrett's out on the floor, but he still has his match next, which is against The Miz. Barrett's still sore from Triple H's attack, and Miz targets Barrett's lower region. Barrett takes a rest before going back and forth with Miz. Miz manages to reverse Barrett suddenly and lock in the figure 4 leg lock, and Barrett has to tap. Backstage, we see Team Hell No. Kane and Bryan are arguing about who never got over AJ in their relationship. Caitlyn tells them to move on. AJ walks in, but she stays in the background, and Caitlyn begins to insult AJ. AJ then flips out and attacks Caitlyn, her former best friend. Well, Team Hell No managed to break it up. Out next, the Shield is in action all together, taking on the Great Khali, Justin Gabriel, and Zack Ryder. The good guys have a spark of offense before the Shield begin to roll and take out everyone. Ambrose locks in a submission and Rollins dives off the ropes for added pain before pinning Gabriel for the win. After the match, Khali tries to fight back, but the Shield nail him with a triple powerbomb. Orton and Sheamus come down the aisle, and Show appears behind them and the Shield freak out. The three good guys come into the ring and clear the ring of the Shield. Backstage, Chris Jericho is being interviewed, but Vicky interrupts and points out that Jericho says that Vicky's just made Fandango versus Chris Jericho at WrestleMania an official match. It's going to be Fandango's debut match against Chris Jericho on the grandest stage of them all. Okay, next is Team Rhodes Scholars with the Bella Twins taking on Tons of Funk with the Funkadactyls. It's the same as last week, except that got interfered because the chicks on the outside started to fight. Good teamwork from both teams, but again, the Bella Twins and the Funkadactyls brawl on the outside of the ring. Cody Rhodes capitalizes and covers Brodus Clay for the win. Up next is Ryback taking on the 3MB. He said if Henry can defeat 2 opponents, he can defeat 3. Ryback takes out Slater and Mahal, but McIntyre stops him. 3MB try to maintain the advantage, but Ryback fights back and gives 3MB spine busters and a double shell shock to Jinder Mahal and Heath Slater for the cover. Ryback's just made a statement to Mark Henry. Out next, AJ Lee and Caitlyn go at it. Caitlyn dominates the whole match until AJ sidesteps a spear on the outside and Caitlyn hits the barrier hard. AJ leaves her on the outside to be counted out and AJ takes the count-out win. The main event of the night, so to say, is John Cena and The Rock debating with the 4 Hall of Famers Booker T, Mick Foley, Dusty Rhodes and Bret Hart. Cena and Rock get asked questions about their match. Each Hall of Famer asks a question and each man says they'll win, pretty much. At the end, Cena goes for an AA, but The Rock reverses it and nails Cena with a rock bottom instead. So I'll move on to Friday Night SmackDown. The Rock comes out and he says he's going to continue story time. The Rock points out that he loved chocolate at the age of 15 and went looking for a Hershey's whatchamacallit, and then told everyone the origin of the phrase candy ass. John Laurinaitis interrupts The Rock, making his return to WWE. He points out that he wants Cena to get his ass kicked and offers to be in The Rock's corner at WrestleMania. They shake hands and Laurinaitis goes to walk away, but The Rock won't let go. Spinebuster, followed by a quick people's elbow. I don't think he's going to be in his corner at WrestleMania. Chris Jericho is going to take on Wade Barrett next, with Miz on commentary, scouting his opponent. Barrett and Jericho are quite even, with lots of momentum shifts. Barrett gets distracted by Miz and walks into a code breaker for the win. After the match, Jericho taunts Fandango some more before he makes his entrance. Jericho tells him to come in, but Fandango backs off rather than confronting Jericho. Up next is a weird competition. Teddy Long and Booker T decided to organise a bench press competition between Mark Henry and Ryback. Teddy Long and Booker T again showing some friction there. I don't know how long it's going to take before one of them flips out on the other. The world record supposedly is 51. Mark Henry goes at the bench press and does 53. Up next, Ryback goes really fast. Before Ryback can beat Henry, he holds down the bar and chokes Ryback with it, leading to a disqualification, but technically Henry won. Dolph Ziggler, AJ Lee, with Big E Langston are going to be taking on Daniel Bryan and Caitlyn with Kane at ringside. Both the males and the divas put on a good show. The managers get into it and Caitlyn takes out AJ with a spear to finish the match. Up next, the Great Khali, who comes out to the ring with Natalya and Hornswoggle, is going to take on Jack Swagger. Swagger and Coulter take aim at the Indian, Canadian and Irish groups in the ring. Khali has a lot of offense, but ultimately Swagger takes advantage. But the match ends when the Patriot lock on the outside and both men get counted out. After the match, Swagger breaks Hornswoggle and goes to break his ankle, but Ricardo comes out and distracts Swagger. Alberto sneaks in and attacks Swagger, cross-arm breaker, and then Zeb Coulter manages to break it up. Up next, our WrestleMania good guys, Sheamus, Orton and Big Show. They're going to take on Team Rhodes Scholars and Antonio Cesaro in the main event. The good guys dominate, but the bad guys show some good teamwork to get an advantage. Just as the good guys get back on track, the bad guys team up on one man, but are quickly cleared out by Big Show. Bro kick to Rhodes, and Sheamus pins Cody for the win. After the match, the Shield emerge, and the good guys don't wait for them to get down to the ring, and they charge up the crowd and take it to the Shield while we go to the credits at the end. Okay, so now I'm going to play you your current entrance theme of the week. It's Chris Jericho's Break the Walls Down.
Come on, you know I gotcha. Yeah, one, break the wall.
That was Chris Jericho's Break the Walls Down. You're back with Grady Hooker and Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM 89.0. At this point, I'd normally go and have a conversation with my American friend Josh, but lately he's been busy at work. Yeah, don't be too saddened for him. He works at a cookie factory, so instead he's decided to send through this little audio bit of him and taking his picks at WrestleMania and what he thinks of the matches. Enjoy. Sorry, just looking at the audio file, it looks like it's not going to load this time. You're going to have to wait another week to hear the glorious voice of Josh. Josh, hopefully the cookie factory give you some time off so you can actually come on air with me. So, I don't know if you guys know, but we have a Facebook page for this radio show. It's facebook.com/Wrestling Roundup Radio. Each word with a capital, no spaces. There you can access extra content, discuss things with me, and we can organise some competitions maybe later on. So, we'll go on with birthdays for this week. There's been 4 wrestlers that had a birthday this week. Trent Beretta, who got released this year. He's turning 26. IRS, he's a legend who's worked with WWF, WCW, and was wrestling from 1984 all the way to 2000. He's now retired, but still works in the WWE backstage. We've also got Mr. Randy Orton, who's turning 33. He's been with the WWE since 2002, and he's going to take on the Shield with Sheamus and Big Show at his side. Also, a quick fact, he's the youngest ever world champion when he got that title at the age of 24 in 2003. Also, the last man to have a birthday this week was Diamond Dallas Page. He turned 57. He recently came back for Raw 1000, if you remember him, and his finish is the Diamond Cutter. So, I also don't know if you guys know, but New Zealand has quite a few wrestling companies, and one of my favourite ones is Impact Pro Wrestling New Zealand. They've recently released the sad news that they got their last few shows, and then they're going to be finishing up. But enjoy them while they're there. We'll talk about the results of their live event. They had Genesis up this last weekend. Little T defeated TJ Rocket. Despite having the crowd firmly in his corner, TJ Rocket was defeated after an injured Brother T at ringside provided the distraction. Two feuding guys, Antonio and James Shaw, battled on a street fight, with James Shaw coming out on top after the Death Valley driver onto two chairs. A-Class Aaron Henry also took on Heartless Alfred Valentine and took up the win there. Travis Banks defeated a New Japan Pro Wrestling star, King Fale, I hope that's how you say it. And the number one contendership for the women's title, Olivia Shaw defeated Brittany after some help from the champion. Also, their New Zealand Heavyweight Championship title was on the line, and Kingy retained his title after pinning Kurt Chaos, who'd previously been powerbombed by Dave O'Connor. The main event of the night was a Royal Rumble-like match called the Eliminator. Liam Fury and Travis Banks both battled to a draw after Liam Fury tapped out of the Lion's clutch at the same moment as Banks' shoulders were being counted down for the pin, so the match was announced a draw. Their next event is IPW, A Decade of Impact. Join Impact Pro Wrestling for our historical final live event ever. What surprises will IPW have in store, and who will leave as the company's final ever IPW New Zealand Heavyweight Champion and IPW New Zealand Women's Champion? It's on April 27th, and it's in the Linfield Rec Centre, Mount Roskill in Auckland, and the only match known so far is Kingy will be defending his title against both Liam Fury and Travis Banks. If you want to get to know more about IPW wrestling for its short duration left, just go to impactprowrestling.co.nz. Okay, so I'm going to have to do something here. We'll go to the WrestleMania card. I'll just run you through it quickly. On the pre-show, Wade Barrett is taking on The Miz for his Intercontinental Championship. Then we got tons of funk, Brodus Clay and Tensai with the Funkadactyls versus Team Rhodes Scholars and the Bella Twins. Told you that would happen. Chris Jericho is also taking on Fandango. And Brock Lesnar's taking on Triple H with the stipulation that if Triple H loses, he must retire. There's also no holds barred on that match. Team Hell No is taking on Dolph Ziggler and Big E Langston for the WWE Tag Team Championships. Ryback's taking on Mark Henry in a Battle of the Colossus. Sheamus, Randy Orton and Big Show are putting their differences aside to take on the force that is the Shield. The Undertaker's putting his streak on the line against CM Punk. Alberto Del Rio is taking on Jack Swagger for the World Heavyweight Championship. And The Rock, in the main event, is defending his WWE Championship against John Cena. I'll leave you to get your own opinions on who's going to win those matches. If you want, you can send them through to me at facebook.co.nz/Wrestling Roundup Radio. Okay, well, I've got some spare time here, so I might as well talk to you more about Impact Pro Wrestling. Genesis was their second to last show that they had this weekend, and it's quite a sad thing. IPW has been around for 10 years, and this is their last show, or last official show, on April 27th for IPW, A Decade of Impact. You can also see them at the Armageddon Expos for Hamilton and Wellington. They're going to be doing encore type screenings there. Next week's show is going to be a real packed show. We're probably going to forget about the Raw and SmackDown for that week because WrestleMania is happening. Yep, WrestleMania 29. We're probably going to be really focused on that. Just so you know, for the first time ever, WrestleMania 29 will be streamed on mobile devices via the WWE app and on Xbox Live. Not sure if that's in New Zealand, but you can go have a look if you want to. Don't expect too many more matches to be announced at this point. I'm guessing Raw and SmackDown will just be used to further the feuds and to get people interested in WrestleMania. Expect them to pull out all the stars. Everyone will be there. Just so I have a record of who I'm going to pick, I'll run down the matches. I think The Miz is going to beat Barrett. I think Tons of Funk and the Funkadactyls will beat Team Rhodes Scholars and the Bella Twins. I think Fandango is going to beat Jericho. Triple H will beat Lesnar. Team Hell No will beat Ziggler and Big E. Ryback will beat Mark Henry. The Shield will beat Sheamus, Orton and Big Show. I think The Undertaker will retain his streak against Punk. I think Alberto Del Rio will just manage to defeat Jack Swagger. Swagger will then lay him out, and Dolph Ziggler will cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. And I think John Cena will take the WWE Championship away from The Rock. I've got my reasonings. If you think I'm wrong, just flick us up at facebook.com/Wrestling Roundup Radio. Just finish off the little thing I don't know if you guys know. 2K Games have bought the licensing for the WWE games off THQ. So for WWE for 2014-15, I think they have a 5-year deal with them. They'll all be with the little 2K label on them. If you've already seen, WWE 13 has been re-released under the 2K label. Expect the games to not be too much different, but they hopefully 2K have a good track with sports games and they'll come out like a great game. So that's it for this week. You've been listening to Grady Hooker with Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM 89.0. Tune in next week when we're going to talk WrestleMania results and hopefully what's to come after that. Cheers.